and record. So we're up and running. I just want to thank everybody so much for attending this workshop. I know that there is a lot of timidness and newness around fundraising, and this is something that we definitely want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable with if you are looking to fundraise for your brigade. And so we just wanted to have a real collaborative session where we invited a few guests to talk about what they've done in their brigades for fundraising tactics. Hopefully this is a learning and collaborative experience. So please make sure to use the chat so that you can jump in if you have any questions. The general way that the session is going to go is that I will start with an introduction and make sure that everybody is familiar with a couple of tools, and then we'll hear from a few brigade members and captains who can talk about fundraising for their brigades, and then we'll have a Q&A session, and we will go over anything that is still kind of foggy. So does that sound good? Yes, okay, and just a reminder, please use the chat if you have any questions or want to interject anything. That's the best way to kind of get our attention. Yes, Neil. Great, thanks. A perfect demonstration. We will use that if we need anything, and we are also recording this workshop so that we can post it and everyone can have access to it if they're not able to access it tonight, or if you have to leave early, no worries about that. So are there any questions before we get started? No? Okay, perfect. Give me 1 second and I will start sharing my screen. And last thing, if everyone could please just put themselves on mute just to avoid any background noises. Okay, perfect. So the first thing that I wanted to do is make sure that everybody knows how to access the donate page on Code for America's website. This is really a great way for folks to directly donate to your brigade. And so there are a couple different ways to do this. The first way that I'm going to show you is through the Brigade website. So if we zoom in, we'll use Atlanta as an example. So we're going to click on Code for Atlanta here on the map. And if you see up at the top right, there's a donate button. So this donate button goes to what looks like a general donate page. But the great part is at the bottom here, Code for Atlanta is already pre-filled into this type-in section of whether your gift is for a local brigade. So if you would like folks to be able to easily donate to your brigade, what you would do is you would copy this link here at the top, the website, and you can link this to any other materials that you have. And Luigi's also going to show how Code for Atlanta has a direct link on their website to this page. And this is just a really easy, small lift so that folks that are visiting your website or any other pages that you have, you can always include a donate link, and folks can be directed to this page to donate. The other way to donate is to go to codeforamerica.org/donate. And one can fill out this form, and in this box right here, type in the name of the brigade that they would like to donate to. So this also is set aside for your brigade. Code for America as an organization is not taking anything out of these donations. So if someone decides that they'd like to opt to donate to your brigade, if they enter your brigade name, it'll be set aside there. So that goes through how someone can donate to a brigade online. Are there any questions about that? Let's see chat. Okay, Taylor from Phoenix asked, how often and how much do people donate? There's really just a range. It depends on the person. It can be anywhere from, $10 to a lot more. So there really is, a big range. And you can ask for a certain donation if you like. I know that Anchorage, Code for Anchorage did a fundraiser to get IDs for folks in Alaska, and I believe the cost per ID was like $25. So that was an easy ask of folks. Not necessarily easy, like everyone, can just donate $25, but it was a set amount and it was a specific cause. Let's see. Year-end for tax purposes, yeah, is a good time. Oh, Mike said that the transaction charge, there is a transaction charge through the service that we use. It's very small. It's, I believe, under $2. And I can look into that a little bit more.
It varies per transaction amount. Okay. So it's a small percentage. I don't remember. It might be 2% or 3%. So it varies per the amount, but there should be the opportunity when you keep going through the page for somebody to say, yes, I want to also pay for the transaction charge. Okay. And the goal is that hopefully the person who's donating will actually pick that up.
Great. Thank you, Jessica. Okay, perfect. Let's see. I'm running through the questions. Can monthly donations be made on the Brigades?
What the tech tool is? Do you want me to answer that too?
Yeah, that would be great.
I haven't introduced myself. Hi, I'm so excited to talk to you all. I'm Jessica. I run our fundraising team at Code for America. I've gotten a preview of some of the things that are going to be shared today, and I'm so excited because you all are doing amazing fundraising work, and it's always great to talk to people about fundraising and share sort of tips and secrets. So I'm delighted to be part of this call. In terms of what tool this is, yes, this is new. Previously, we had the site that we were using had a much higher fee. So this past year, we switched to something called DonorBox, which has a lower fee. Yes, it is called DonorBox, and we're happy to share additional information about DonorBox if helpful.
Great, thanks, Jessica. Neil asked what service we're using for donations.
Yeah,
you just answered that.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, great. I will run through the next part of the demonstration if that's all the questions for now.
I think you missed the monthly one.
Oh, can monthly donations be made on the Brigades donation page? Like a recurring donation, I assume. Do you know if that works, Jessica?
I don't know for sure. I know that we built in the recurring feature on DonorBox because there's a different, I think the Brigade specific page had a different front end because it auto-populates the Brigade name, if I recall correctly. And I don't think that has a recurring donation function. But I bet we could add one, so I am happy to double check on that for everybody.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, perfect. I will move on to the next part. Great. So the next thing that I wanted to cover is that everyone that has signed an MOU so far should have received a welcome email with their relationship letter, as well as some information about resources that Code for America offers. If you have signed an MOU and you have not received this email, please send me a message off of this workshop, just so I can make sure that you have that information. And so as part of that relationship letter, this is an example for Code for Atlanta. Essentially, the relationship letter is to codify the relationship between Brigades and Code for America, and also give you a formal documentation to show that your brigade is part of the 501c3 status of Code for America. And so, if you ever need this documentation, please use your relationship letter. If you have any questions about this relationship letter, please let us know. The EIN number is listed at the bottom. And so if you need that, then you can use that. Let me look at questions. Okay, perfect. And then the last thing I want to show you is the financial guidance tool right here. So this is a financial guidance guide for Brigades, and this is also something that we can share if you'd like more information. Code for America Brigades essentially are volunteer chapters of Code for America. And so, for example, when anything is being given to a brigade, or any donations are being made, please keep in mind that the donation is going to Code for America and then being held for your brigade. And so we, of course, put aside all of the funds that are designated for your brigade. But for example, if you are starting to enter into a grant process or any other more formal transactions when it comes to donations, please make sure that you loop us in at the beginning of those conversations, just because if there are different requirements or different guidelines that are associated with the donation, Code for America is responsible to abide by those guidelines. And so we just want to make sure that we're part of the conversation as it's happening, just so that we are fully aware of everything that we need to do on our end to make sure that your donation is able to be used effectively. And that's what I had to share as far as screen sharing. And here, let me put this document here in the chat. Okay, perfect. Great. Any more questions right now? Perfect. So that's enough of me talking. I will start introducing our presenters. Okay, so first up, Luigi is going to present representing Code for Atlanta, and he's going to talk a little bit about some of their fundraising practices that they've used and anything that he's learned. I'll let you take it away.
Cool. Thanks, Veronica. Can y'all see my screen? Cool. So hey, everyone. My name is Luigi, and I am a co-captain of Code for Atlanta. So the first thing I wanted to get across is that fundraising is hard, and it can suck to ask a bunch of people or companies for money and for them to almost all say no. But it just does take persistence, and it's definitely a sort of sink or swim type thing, where if you aren't raising money, it can feel like your brigade might be in jeopardy, or like maybe you can't host hack nights anymore. I've been there with Code for Atlanta when we started a few years ago, and when we as all brigades had to start raising our own money. There was like a month or two where we didn't have anything in our budget, and so we just stopped doing hack nights. But eventually we were able to raise some money from some local companies, and that led us to raising more money, and now we're in a pretty solid financial situation. So in the movie Finding Nemo, there's this phrase that I think Dory tells Nemo, which is "just keep swimming," and it's repeated in the end in a very climactic scene. So I would say just keep swimming, just keep going. And hopefully some of the pointers that y'all will hear tonight from a few of us brigade captains around the country will help you keep swimming. So here's what we do in Atlanta. So this is a PDF. Whenever we do, when we do want to raise money, we create a one-sheet PDF. And you can click on it. I'm going to paste the URL right now into the the comment, and that's just the PDF. But we can also look into it in more detail. So this is our Open Data Day event coming up next weekend, pretty soon. We're calling it the Atlanta Green Space Hackathon. So we start off by name dropping and saying who we're partnering with. So Park Pride is an awesome local nonprofit that is our main partner for this event. And we talk about what exactly we're doing. And we also name drop some more nonprofits around town. So we're also going to partner with Piedmont Park Conservancy, which is the biggest park in Atlanta, and then also the Audubon Society. Further down on that one sheet PDF, we then do the ask. So we generally ask for at least $500 whenever reaching out for sponsorships, and I'm usually talking about corporate company-based sponsorships. So we're asking for either $500 or $1,000. We say what the sponsors will get in return, so a logo placement, and then an opportunity to speak during our opening remarks of our hackathon. We talk about who's going to come to the hackathon, what we expect, what kind of roles people are going to fill, just to sort of give the sponsor more of a clue who's actually coming. And then the last thing we do is we just give a little bit about ourselves, and in this case, Park Pride, our partner, just to give the sponsors more of a, but the potential sponsors more of an idea about who we are. So who do we reach out to? So we at Code for Atlanta have found the most success reaching out to companies. And by that, I really do mostly local companies and tech companies specifically. We have had some donations come in from individuals. Usually that has happened towards the end of the year, like during Giving Tuesday, where either members of Code for Atlanta or family and friends of the Code for Atlanta organizing team, they pitch in a couple $100 each, but mostly we've found most success with companies. So the first batch of companies that we reach out to are the companies that we have been previously sponsored by. Just like a customer is a good customer in a business situation is a good customer when they're a repeat customer. It's most likely that people who have sponsored you in the past will sponsor you again. And another sort of group to look at is companies that sponsor other meetups around town that maybe have not sponsored you yet. So this is another group of companies that will probably are interested in sponsoring either meetups or hackathons or tech events in general. And so do some research, look on meetup.com, look at the popular meetups around your town, see if they have sponsors, ask the meetup organizers of those meetups if they can tell you who their sponsors are, and maybe you'll figure out, make some good connections that way. Third is companies that have a direct connection with your members. So at every hack night, we ask folks to think if their company that they might work for would be interested in sponsoring us, and that's worked. We've gotten a few sponsorships that way. So use your members to get those connections. And last, one other bucket is companies that want to sort of get into civic tech. And this is sort of a marker of the success of the civic tech movement in the last couple of years. It's growing, and there are more people that want to get into it, more companies that want to get to it, specifically around the concept of smart cities. And I know there's been a lot of like links and articles in the past couple of weeks about like what exactly smart cities are and if they're healthy for cities overall in the big picture. But the reality is there's a lot of big tech companies that want to sell what they call solutions, because they're big tech companies selling expensive solutions to local and city governments, municipal governments, and they want to be in that business. And I think this is really an opportunity for us as Brigades to put our civic tech stamp on smart cities, to engage with these large tech companies. So for example, here in Atlanta, the biggest single donation / sponsorship we've gotten was from AT&T, specifically around this, a Smart Cities Challenge. Last summer, we helped AT&T run a summer-long Smart Cities Challenge, and they were giving away several tens of thousands of dollars in prize money. And we at Code for Atlanta, for helping them organize that, we took in $12,500 for that, and so it was a big. They were ready to spend that money. They were serious about marketing themselves as a smart city solution provider, and they wanted to sort of AT&T wanted to sort of make that imprint on Atlanta and on Metro Atlanta, all the cities around Metro Atlanta. So they were willing to, give us that donation to help them out. So definitely, this is a kind of a new opportunity and one to think about. And so I would advise everyone to like think about, or like maybe keep an ear out for smart cities programs around your city, and see how your brigade can be involved in it, because I do think there is some good sponsorship opportunities out there. One last little tip that we have found to be pretty cool in Atlanta. So we have made a memorable URL off of our domain, our main domain. So if you go to www.codeforatlanta.org, we set up a redirect, and that redirects to that same page that Veronica showed earlier, where you can pre-fill the link. So whenever we give out the link in either in person or online on social media, we just use this simpler URL, codeforatlanta.org/donate, and the people just land in the right place. So that's my little presentation, and I will toss it back to Veronica.
Amazing, thank you. Luigi, if you'll just stay on for a couple minutes while I read some of the questions that we received. And Brendan asked this to everyone, but wondering if you have any thoughts on that there are some local community grants that are looking for local nonprofits that they can fund, and it seems like they're trying to keep out national organizations and focus more locally. Have you come across this, and how do you kind of work to be, since you're a local brigade, part of a national nonprofit, how do you kind of manage that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it's very little. With all due respect to Code for Atlanta, there's very little actually that people care about Code for Code for America here locally in Atlanta. So I think that's definitely the case where people are sponsors are mostly focused on the Brigade rather than the national entity. I've not seen anything like that Brendan's talking about, but I'm sure there are many opportunities like that.
Awesome. And then Taylor from Phoenix asked whether you have a sponsorship package that includes logo placement or mentioning the company at Hack Night.
Yes, we do. And I can get a Dropbox link for that. So that one sheet I showed was for our upcoming hackathon, but we also have a one sheet PDF for our Hack Night sponsorship. And that is $500 a month that we ask for. And it's exactly what Taylor was talking about, logo placement on our website and our materials. We also offer like shout outs on social media for the month that company sponsors. And then we also invite a representative from that company to be at all our Hack Nights and speak at the beginning of each Hack Night. So I will get a Dropbox link for that right now, and I'll share it in the chat.
Perfect, thanks. Last question from Joanne is, did you use Eventbrite for your hackathon to sell tickets?
Yes, we do use Eventbrite. We used to use another service, but it actually got bought by Eventbrite, so might as well not even mention it, but it is Eventbrite is what we use now, and it works pretty well. We don't do any cost for our tickets, like we don't put a price value on it, so I'm not familiar with that and how that all works. We just have $0 amounts for all our tickets, but you know, it's a pretty good system.
Awesome. Thanks, Luigi.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right, so next we're going to shoot it over to Chris from Open Raleigh Brigade. So I will let you take it away, Chris.
Okay. Try. 1 second. I switch out my slides and back to that. Okay. Hi, I'm Chris, and I'm with the Open Raleigh Brigade, formerly Code for Raleigh, and these are our fundraising tips. So just a little bit of background. We've been doing events in civic tech in the Triangle for about 7 years, and 5 years as a brigade. So we have about 20, 25 core members that come to our meetups and our online things. And we generally have about 300 people tops at some of our bigger events. And we raise about $35,000 a year to do all of this. So going along with what Luigi said, I mean, fundraising is really about relationships. And to do relationships, you have to invest in those relationships like you do with any of your friends. And I really like to think of our donors and our sponsors as friends more than just a checkbook. So I always do a lot of online, I do a lot of things with checking on who's hiring, who's expanding, who's new in town, who do I know that is there, because I'm real uncomfortable talking to strangers, but if I'm talking to a friend, I'm much more comfortable about that. And that's one of the things that I think has to be overcome when you start doing fundraising, because for the most part, it's really, like Luigi said, you're going to be getting a lot of people who are going to say no. And you got to be able to understand that's not necessarily anything bad on you, but but a friend is more likely to have a conversation with you rather than that. So you can always keep those doors open. Read about who's new in town, like I said, who's expanding. I use LinkedIn a lot to see who I know that might know someone new at a company. So that's one of the big things for us, is that we have that going for it. We do that. So we have a lot of expansion. We have a lot of new companies coming in, a lot of, for different reasons, they want to get their name out about a particular initiative that they're doing, whether it's like Luigi said, with smart cities or with some other type of things, maybe they're just doing a lot of hiring that year. So we try to be aware of what's happening so that when that comes up, we have a chance to do that. Friends of friends, like I said, and fundraising is an all year long activity. We don't just do this when we have a need. We kind of keep these relationships open. It's like, I have a friend who's used to come to our events, and I saw where his 16-year-old son just is going for his driving test. And I remember him bringing his 2 kids to an event, to one of our events 5 years ago. And I said, I can't believe that Josh is now driving, just, not even asking, just letting him know. I remember Josh when he was when he was a kid, and now he's a young adult. It just be amazing to deal with that, just so they know that they really are friends of mine. They're not just, something I'm looking for a check from them. So that's one of the big things. Just make sure that people know that you're their friend. When we have a prospectus, where Code for Atlanta has like a 1-page prospectus. We actually found that a more detailed prospectus about what we do. We have a series of events throughout the year, what our attendance is at those events, what the makeup of our attendees are, and then we also have different levels of sponsorship. We have everything from $10,000 down to pay what you can type of packages. And we do different things like logo placement. For some of the higher ones, we actually offer them to name their name, like Civic Camp, sponsored by Esri and Open Raleigh Brigade type of thing. So we actually get their name on there, so they have a little more name recognition in the triangle when they're doing those type of things. And there's the link, and I'll share that link on the chat when I get done here. We use our website and our social media a lot to get our exposure. So we do those type of things. We try to get our name out there. I also have a lot of relationships with the newspaper and the TV station that have a tech newsletter that they send out and different things. We have one of our members actually does it every 2-week opinion piece on entrepreneurship and tech in the Triangle and North Carolina in general. So he always tries to reach out every once or twice a year to include the Brigade in what he's talking about. So it's a really good thing to just continually get your name out there, continually get that focus from people so that they always know that, oh yeah, Code for Raleigh or Open Raleigh. Yeah, I know what those guys are doing. Right? I remember those guys from last year. So that's one of the big things that we do. And then, show that value. When you show the value of what it is that you're doing, let them know that you're there. Let them be that sort of fly in their ear all year long. They know that there's something going on, even if they're not at your meetups. If they're not at your events, they know that this thing's going on. And then, of course, when you do have that opportunity, make the ask and have a definite use in place. Like with Luigi, he was showing their green space hackathon. Well, we have different events that we say, we're working on affordable housing, and we really would love to have you guys help sponsor breakfast or do this type of thing. Or, we like to give out T-shirts and we like to give out small pieces of swag. So, if you guys could, donate something to the swag bag, that would be great. So we do things like that. So we just try to be very specific about what we need, what we want. We try to do things where we get a lot of in-kind donations. Like we have a company that does big events, like stadium level internet events, and they actually donate internet to our events, so we have enough bandwidth for everyone to be on 2 or 3 devices and viewing downloads, and that's another great thing that we need. So sometimes we do those in-kind donations and be flexible about it. Obviously, that's why in-kind and not necessarily money, monetarily being reimbursed, and then offer the options and get. But the big thing is when you do this, do get the yes or no. Get them to say, yes, we want to donate, and no, because even a no is good, because you're not going to waste your time going through a cycle and continually trying to get, if they say maybe, that's kind of a no. So just go for the yeses, but keep the relationship going for the next year and let them know that even if they're not going to be able to work with you this year, that you're still considering them a thing. Like I said earlier, we had Esri for a couple of years do a lot of donations, and this past year they couldn't do anything. but we still invited them to the events and invited them to speak at the events, just because we know that we wanted to keep that relationship open, so that when their cycle, when their expense cycle comes back around, that they continue to think about, well, these guys aren't just for that. We're actually trying to build a community. We want you to be part of that community. So some creative pitches, like I said, sponsored breakfast, lunch. One of the things, when Google Fiber came to town, they wanted to get out there. So they actually sponsored meet and greets. So after our event, so we actually had everyone go from our event to a restaurant, and we had sort of a buffet styled meal with Google Fiber's footing the bill for all of that. So it was a good thing for both of us to get their name out. It got added a lot of value to our attendees, because it was a networking event without any sort of real pressure on sort of that type of thing. Have a table at the event. So sometimes you have companies that are doing recruiting. So having one of their representatives, a couple of their representatives at the event is really helpful for them. Offer scholarships. We have things like Girl Develop It, Chick Tech, and a couple of other groups that are doing inclusiveness in tech. And for instance, Red Hat donates to us every year. Well, they don't necessarily need anything from us, but we always use a large portion of their donation to offer scholarships to our events, so that we'll go to a Girl Develop It meeting and we'll actually say, we have 25 scholarships for the people that want to come. So we get that type of thing. So it gets Red Hat's name out to the Girl Develop It group. It gets Girl Develop It aware of Red Hat opportunities. There's maybe some internships. So we try to build that community, and we try to build those friendship type of things. And like I said, with some of the bigger prizes, we offer allow them to name prizes. When we do our hackathon, or once a year, we have a hackathon and a competition type of thing that we try to encourage entrepreneurs to come out and work with us. So we offer those type of things. Or lead a session. Since we do on conferences, they have to pitch like everyone else, but we do encourage the sponsors to actually come forward and to lead a session on what is the latest in their technology. With Esri and their open data portal, what advances have you made in the past year to make it an attractive option for people to use, type of thing. Let me see. So, and we stay away from the pay to play, the kind of bringing recruiters in to pitch like that, but we do want to bring out the outcome of building a community, some of those type of things. So, and one of the other things that's important for me, since it's an all-year thing and I've got a lot of other responsibilities, is documenting what I'm doing when I'm doing things, and then looking at it. Thank you notes. One thing that we've been doing the past couple of years is we actually take a nice thank you note, and we have all of the organizers sign it, little notes saying thank you. This year we've actually got someone who has a panoramic camera who's actually going to take a picture of all the attendees, and we're going to take that and actually create a picture that we'll actually send back, go mail to all of our sponsors, or if they're in town, we'll actually go visit them and give it to them to show, hey, here's a signed thing with all of our attendees. Here's what your money actually helped provide for. So it's those type of things. And then, of course, social media. You always want to giving them the shout outs, including that whenever it is. We couldn't do we couldn't do our events, we couldn't do our meetups, we couldn't do our projects without having you be a part of what we're doing. Thank you. And then we mention them in newsletters, and we mention them in stories that we write, and things like that. So, and then finally, do get a CMS to help you do this, or a spreadsheet even. I just use a Google Sheets that I keep track of what my last conversation is with them, where we are with the in fundraising, that type of thing, and we put that all out there in the open. So just try to do that type of thing. It's a lot easier than trying to remember who you talked to last month or who you talked to last year. So those type of things. So when you start doing a new yearly cycle, you can say, who was our sponsors, who were the people that were easy to talk to, and these are the people you probably want to get started with. Or if you've got someone who's new at fundraising, maybe these are the people you want to sort of give those leads to type of thing. So those type of things. So that's a good thing to keep track of with the paperwork. And I think that is about all I have. So.
Amazing. Thank you, Chris. That was really great. I'm going to read some questions that came up in the chat. It seems like there's been a lot of activity, so just bear with me. Matt from Code for Boston asked a general question, but you might have some insight onto this on how do folks parcel out the work of fundraising in terms of it's a large bucket of stuff that could be delegated to the right people.
We actually don't. I mean, when we did fundraising, I was part of the brigade. I was helping out. I was doing logistics. I was doing things like that in the background. One year, the people who were doing fundraising just had other commitments, or they moved away, or I can't remember exactly what it was. And I kind of got dropped into it without any sort of preparation. So we do try to use relationships for people who are our core members, like if they work at Red Hat. Jason Hibbets is our other co-captain. We use that. If somebody's working at another tech company or Blue Cross or Blue, wherever they're working, we actually try to have them say, can you make an ask to your company type of thing. So we try to get those type of things if you have that opportunity at your company to see about whether they have a foundation or if they have some sort of a need that they might want to work with us, then we've tried to do that type of thing. So.
Awesome. Matt also asked generally, but do you charge for your event? If so, how much? He says that Code for Boston has never charged before.
Right. For like our Open Data Day event, our National Day of Civic Hacking event, we don't charge. We don't charge for hack nights. For our bigger events, like our Civic Camp and our Data Palooza, we do charge. But we also provide a lot more for that. Besides the swag bags, we have larger meals. We have better meals. We have, and it's a 2-day event, so we have a lot more going on. So there's a lot more value. So when we have those big events, we do charge a certain amount, but we've never turned anyone away. So when people say they can't afford, we always say, well, there's a scholarship available. And or if you have you can't, just come and we'll work it out. You know, maybe you can volunteer a couple of hours here, and that's kind of that'll pay for your ticket. So those type of things.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any questions? You can unmute yourself and pipe up. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Chris. Yay, applause. Okay, perfect. Next, we're going to go to Yan Yan from Code for San Jose.
Hi, everyone. Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Yan Chai. I'm with Code for San Jose. I recently joined the leadership team as Brigade Captain. I've been with the leadership team kind of for the last year or so, and I've been a member of Code for San Jose for the last almost 4 years. So a little overview about our chapter. We started back in 2013, so we're pretty new. We typically have bi-weekly meetups, and during our Civic Hack Nights, we usually have about 20 to 40 attendees on average. And we don't really do too many big events. I'd say maybe a couple times a year, like National Day of Civic Hacking or the Open Data Day. So that's a little bit about what we do. So I wanted to start off by talking about some of the microgrants that we got for one of our specific projects. The Renters' Rights Guide is a project that I've been leading for last year or so, and it's basically a web application built with Rails and React, and it helps inform San Jose renters about local laws and programs in place to protect them. Over the past year, we've been doing a lot of user research and community outreach, and we've engaged almost, I'd say, probably like 9 nonprofit potential partners to try to see, get their perspective on policies and things like that, and also keep them engaged in the process. So I think it's really helped to spread the word about Code for San Jose to community members who may not otherwise engage with us. So for that specific project, I applied for a couple grants. One of them was Awesome Foundation Grant. It's a fund amount for $1,000, and I applied with the intention to use it for user testing and volunteer costs with various meetings that we have. Basically, Awesome Foundation is really great because they have rolling deadlines. Anyone can apply. There's no real restriction to who can really use it. They just really want to see the applicant be able to make San Jose or their specific city that's associated with the foundation awesome with that grant. It's a microgrant and there's no strings attached, which makes it really nice. And each month the local board reviews local grant applications, and they'll let you know if you were the awardee for the month. So how do we get this? So I presented at the same event that they presented at back in October last year. And then subsequently I applied online, and it was a very short process. It was about a page long. I think it really helped to demonstrate that we had a live version of the sites that people were using, and that we were putting a lot of time and effort to building community around this and engaging nonprofit and government stakeholders. So pretty much next month they let us know that we got it, and in December they gave us cash. So we started using the money to help with some of our costs. And around the same time, I started applying for a grant through the San Jose Mayor's office. It was also for $1,000, and similarly, we connected at the Innovate Your State conference where we pitched, and afterwards we met privately and we gave them a demo, and we asked them specifically for partnership and for money. And about a month later, they reached out and they decided to give us a grant. And we started filing paperwork in December, and paperwork is still being processed with the city clerk's office, so we don't have the funds yet, but it will be awarded to us pretty soon, and we have until the end of this year to use that money. So it's kind of no strings attached, with some asterisks, like, you know, you can't use it for campaigning or advocacy or be tied with any sort of like religious organization. But for the most part, it's kind of open-ended. We have told them that we intend to use it mostly for user testing, volunteer costs, and any kind of community outreach efforts, like maybe translating the application into Spanish, Vietnamese, and Tagalog. So that's kind of our intention with these micro grants, is very specific and focused on the project that we have. So our largest supporter has been Microsoft Silicon Valley. They've been there for us since day one, primarily Jessica Weary, who is managing their corporate social responsibility and philanthropy. And she's really, really awesome. She's been very supportive. And so they gave us a $10,000 grant that it's a one-time grant. So we haven't really done a lot of fundraising. I think we've mostly been maintaining this relationship with Microsoft, but we don't want to take it for granted because these grants are not, they're not continuous. So we have plans to meet together as a team, which we're still forming. And we hope that we can keep our operations sustainable. I also wanted to share kind of some of the things that I think was already mentioned, but relationships is really, really important. In my previous leadership role for the New Leaders Council, Silicon Valley, I was running the board for the last couple of years, and I think that it's really important to maintain these relationships, even if it doesn't come with an ask. You know, you're just staying in conversation with the right people, and you're showing up for their events and not just asking people to come to your events, so you can create those partnerships with other organizations that you want to collaborate with. So relationships, and I think documentation is really goes a long way with helping you fundraise. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email or let me know right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I did see one question here from Joanna. She asked, how long do you budget the Microsoft grant of $10,000 to last?
That's a great question. I'm not really sure. I think given our expenses, we will be using it within this year.
Okay, great. Does anyone else have any other questions? You can unmute yourself. No? Okay. Thank you, Union.
Thank you.
Great. Yay. Perfect. Okay, so last up we have, well, not all the way last, but we have Jesse from Code for San Francisco, and he's going to explain a little bit about Code for San Francisco's fundraising and tactics.
Okay, there we go. Hey, everybody. Share this. Okay, can people see that?
Yep.
Good. Can people hear me all right, too? Okay, cool. Awesome. So thank you. So yeah, I'm Jesse Spudko, one of the co-organizers of Code for San Francisco. Over the past couple of years, we've actually had a couple of other individuals focused on fundraising, but they've had to take a step back over the last year especially, so I'm taking a more active role in this. And so reflecting, I actually feel like over the last couple of years, at least, the Brigade hasn't been terribly successful in doing the fundraising. And so what I'm hoping to share here is maybe some of the missteps that we had, a couple of the things that we did do well, I think, and then sort of our plan for 2018. But yeah, I was actually excited for this workshop to learn as well as share. So starting with a little bit of level setting, just to add some context to the numbers that I'm talking about. Our event, or our brigade, gets roughly 60 people every week for Hack Night, and then roughly around 100 for larger events like Open Data Day and National Day of Civic Hacking. And then I just included some numbers from 2017. You can see that we actually ended the year with a negative net. We're coding a little bit on donations that we had gotten the previous years. And then and so even if we didn't raise any money this year, I think we would actually still be okay. And so that's why, but I'll add a couple of thoughts I have at the end for why we might still fundraise this year anyway. So where we're at currently, we do have, similar to Code for San Jose, a very close relationship with Microsoft Silicon Valley. So they've very generously sponsored the Brigade at a rate of $10,000 per year. But in addition to the sponsorship, they've also been a very close partner with the Brigade. Even before they were a sponsor, they were attending Hack Nights. And so sort of as a way to bridge into the civic technology community that Microsoft was interested in sort of like engaging, they saw Code for San Francisco as one way to facilitate that. And so there's still Scott Mivey, especially from the Microsoft side, as well as other Microsoft fellows do attend our Hack Nights on a regular basis. And I believe a couple of the fellows, like Civic Innovation fellows at Microsoft, were actually sourced in the Brigade. So I just share that just to emphasize that it is a very close partnership in addition to their financial support. We do also get occasional donations from Brigade members. In particular, we have benefited from corporate matching in the past. So some of our members work for companies that will donate on their employees' behalf whenever they make a donation up to a certain amount per year. So I definitely would recommend sharing that with your membership. They may also be working with companies that do matching financial, but also there are companies that will, in return for their employees volunteering, will actually pay or donate on their behalf as well. So I definitely recommend checking that as well. I know Salesforce and Google both have those programs. And then talked about this a little bit in the chat actually, but we do charge a nominal fee for the Open Data Day and National Day of Civic Hacking. Not for Hack Night, but we do charge about $10 for Open Data Day and National Day. And that's partly to cover the costs of operations for the event, but we've also seen it sort of guarantee a higher sort of rate of attendance from the RSVP count. So kind of both of those, but we always include the caveat that if that's a barrier at all, we're more than happy to waive it. We've never not done that if people have reached out. So reflecting over the last couple of years, what I think didn't work for us is actually contrary to Chris too far. Where am I going? How do I go back? There we go. We also had a very sort of heavy sponsorship prospectus document. That was, I think, about 10-ish pages. I'll share the links after this. But what we found is that the people focusing on our fundraising actually spent a lot of time like learning InDesign and sort of keeping that document up to date and less time actually like engaging our potential sponsors. So I think going forward, I would like to trim that down a little bit and see how that works for us. We also didn't identify our needs first. So going into this next year, I would like to actually identify how much money we need to sort of make the case for why companies should donate and sort of like exactly where that money is going. It feels like in the past, we've sort of used arbitrary numbers without a lot of sort of like this will be used for this type of language. And then also waiting for sponsors to come to us. I think that was largely because people were spending a lot of time sort of organizing the fundraising as opposed to sort of building those partnerships. What I think did work for us is we've sort of not necessarily solicited, that might be the wrong word, make people aware that you can donate to Code for San Francisco and how. And so during our Hack Night openings, and so even if people weren't donating at that very moment, we did find that like later on when people were thinking about donations, especially towards the end of the year before tax season, since you can write them off, or the corporate matching programs, like we did get donations that way. And so people were sort of just aware that Code for San Francisco was an option for that. Finding partners, I mean, that obviously worked very well for us, like not just sponsors, but companies that we can work more closely with together. And in particular, the partnership that we've had with Microsoft, I think, has been very effective in that regard. Because in addition to the financial support, they also attend our events, help support. They have an event space in San Francisco, which they let us use for free. So that's sort of additional benefits. And we also run pretty lean. I mean, if you look back at the numbers, we run, I think it was about 16,000 supports us for the full year. So Microsoft really gets us most of the way there. And then so we just need to sort of make up those gaps. So what I'm thinking about doing in 2018 is I want to first start by organizing our finances a little bit, opening them up a la Shy Hack Nights model where they have a spreadsheet where they sort of keep track of all that. Because even as organizers, it's kind of difficult. Like we have people expensing things, but there's not a central place where we're keeping track of that right now. So that'll allow us to figure out exactly how much we need for this year. And then to like bare minimum, but I would also like to identify like additional threshold levels, be like, if we were to raise another 5,000, we could afford better food than pizza on Hack Nights or that sort of thing. And so like identifying those additional thresholds that we could try to reach. So I think replacing our prospectus with this one-page fundraising site that we actually had up before. Is sort of the tack that I'm thinking of getting on there. So again, I'll share the link after this, but it's very succinct and to the point. And so I think for us, it's much lighter, and I think we're going to try it at least, and I think it'll end up yielding a little bit better results. And then this was mentioned a couple times already, but definitely doing targeted outreach to companies and individuals that have donated to the organization in the past. So yeah, I think that was all I had to share. So I will stop the screen share. Cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Jesse. If you leave it unmuted.
Oh yeah, good idea.
Perfect. Does anyone have any questions for Jesse? If you do, just unmute and ask away. Matt asks, is there a way we can collect donations in person at events? So the thing is that I mean, that is technically possible, Matt. It would just you need to be able to get it to Code for America, and I'm sure everyone has different feelings about putting money in the mail. I haven't experienced this yet here at my time here at CFA, but I'm sure you could also deposit it into some other resource. And I think Jessica's nodding her head.
Yeah, when people have asked to donate at other Code for America events, I pulled up my laptop and said that we take donations from credit cards, and I just had them do it live. It was a great user testing experience. I discovered that it was harder. I was like, oh, we need to look at this workflow, because I hadn't done it myself in a while. But yeah, I just pulled up a laptop.
Awesome. And with that, I will reintroduce Jessica, who's our Director of Development here at Code for America. So I'll let her introduce herself, and please ask any questions that she might be able to answer.
Yeah, this has been so amazing. I love hearing about all of your awesome work. And one of the things that we've talked a lot about is trying to better understand ways that what is working currently for Brigade, so we can figure out better ways to support you across the board. But you all are doing amazing work, and I feel so lucky to have heard about it. Thank you for being fundraising experts in your communities. But I'm happy to answer any questions both now and at other times.
I have a question. This is Jerry.
Jerry, did you have a question?
Okay, I think that'll work.
I know that Jessica's been answering a
One
ton of
question is,
questions.
do you have a place to share? Oh, hang on, my phone.
What kind of thank you do donors on the site get from CFA? Should we be doing something on top of that?
They should be getting automatic. So if somebody comes through our website, they get an automatic donation thank you, and we can send the text of that around. I would definitely encourage you to send your own thank you notes though to donors, because in that regard, I don't remember who said this earlier, but they were like, no offense, they don't really care about Code for America. They care about you, and they care about supporting your local work. So as much as you want to have time or an automatic, you can do lots of things. But I think some sort of personal outreach is always really appreciated. And I think how their donation is helping you do their work.
And when we receive a donation for a brigade, we try to make sure to forward that information to the brigade so you can do your own follow-up. If you're expecting a donation, you can always let us know in advance, and we can make sure to keep an eye out for it and let you know when it arrives. So there's definitely different methods. Nehemiah asked, does the donation page require you to have your own bank account?
Is that as a brigade or as a donor?
That's what I was, for who, does the donation page require you to have your own bank account? No, I think the donation page takes credit cards. So you would need to have some sort of ability to pay online. I don't know if you have to have a bank. You could probably use credit or debit.
No.
You can let it relax personal warmth. You know, look, we're trying to do a lot of things. It's pretty generic. And part of that is In terms of what we do as our own practice is they'll get an automatically generated letter, and then typically someone on me or my team follows up personally with some more specific information. What is super important is that people get information that is makes their donation tax deductible, and everyone wants to have that as a receipt. So what we've automated has been that process, and then we do a lot of the personal side of the back end.
Yeah, Nehemiah was saying as the Brigade.
Luigi, we can't hear you.
Can you hear
Yeah,
me
I think
now?
the Brigade doesn't need their own bank account.
Yeah, the Brigade
Oh,
doesn't.
sorry.
And I mean,
Right,
just
the money does go to CFA. And then
Yeah,
there's-
okay.
Yeah, the money goes to CFA's bank account, and then there is a spreadsheet where the CFA tracks all our virtual bank accounts.
Oh, yeah.
So that's how you can keep track of like your Brigade's bank account through that spreadsheet.
Luigi, do you mind repeating that one more time?
Sure. I was just explaining how the Brigades, we Brigades don't need our own bank account. That all goes into CFA's account. And then we as Brigade organizers can check that spreadsheet there's a spreadsheet that the accounting department at CFA keeps on top of, and it just says how much money we have in our balance. So and then to get that money, we submit a expense report once a month to get a reimbursement. So we pay out of pocket for like pizza for hack nights, and then once a month we submit an expense report, and then we get that debited to our personal bank accounts.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Luigi. If you need access to that spreadsheet, please just send me a message off of this workshop, and we can walk through anything that you need. And that's in general for everyone. I know that the finances, it's like an extra layer that a lot of times you really don't want to have to worry about or think about. But once you get it down, it should be fairly straightforward. So just feel free to get in touch with us if you have any questions about how to process your finances through Code for America. One other point I will make is that if you do have a very large expense and have that money in your account and don't want to incur that expense personally and then be reimbursed, we do have an option to be able to pay things up front. That very rarely happens. The definite preferred method is reimbursement, but we are also, of course, sensitive to the fact that the reimbursement process is coming out of your own account first. So if you have a situation like that, where you would rather do something where you're not reimbursed, please let us know. Great. I will just also feel. Oh, okay. Cool. Oh, perfect.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah. Come on.
Okay, I'm sorry, I've got two things going here. I just wanted to mention the fact there's a website called Foundation Center, and it's a grant library with hundreds of thousands of grants. And what you do is basically go in and search for what you're looking for, and then you basically follow the criteria that they specify. So a lot of times they'll say they're not open to cold calls, so don't cold call them. And a lot of times they'll say it's an open-ended grant, or it's something that you need to follow a certain path or procedure. But it's basically there's going to be a siren here. Hang on a second. It's going to be noisy. Basically, you can go to, usually if there's a nonprofit in your area that trains other nonprofits, they have access to that library. Or I just learned you can go online and it's $50 a month. So that will be the best $50 you ever spend if you go through there. They have 140,000 different grant makers. So I had a nonprofit for 9 years. We raised a ton of money through that. So that's something to consider. And it's called foundationcenter.org, and it's the foundation directory online. Thanks.
Thanks, Jerry. And I just dropped something in the chat. We use Foundation Center a lot too. And I just asked somebody to check in if there's different group. I know that we've thought about it as Code for America as an org, but like if we include you all, what was the look of, could we get a lot more people signed up or have a login that we could share? So I'll check on that and see if we can do a group membership of sorts.
That would be killer. Thank you.
Great. While we're discussing resources, is there anything else that folks would, like us to see, research? We obviously don't know exactly what that outcome will be, but we're happy to try to make things as easy as possible. That's what we're here for. So if you have any other questions or want to research something, just pop it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself.
Hey, I have a comment to add. Something I forgot to include is that sometimes your local city council members may have budget to provide a even smaller microgrants for specific projects. I think the best approach with that kind of money, it's usually like $500, maybe up to $1,000, is to allocate it for a specific project, because then they can really kind of track and see what the impact will be. But San Jose City Council does this, so it is a lot of relationship building, because you do need to like meet with council members' offices individually. But it's an option, I think, for San Jose. Not sure about other cities, but it would be interesting to see if this is something that a lot of local government folks do.
You should know too that the county supervisors have the same fund, except it's a lot more usually. Like I think ours has $1 million each, and we have like 5 districts, and they oftentimes have a cycle. Like our city council, the council members have to put in a letter, and it basically lists the 27 things they want, funding for. In October or November, I think, and our budget year starts. It ends in June and starts. So we're a July to June fiscal year, but they start 6 months early. So if you get in early to your city council member, just come in with a project or a program and say we need 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000. They'll add it to their budget priorities, and they basically approve them en masse. So all the council members get theirs approved, and then they start doling out the money right in July. Or whatever the fiscal year is.
Awesome.
Yeah, and another thing to back up on that is when our council members want to do something like that, they funnel it through the economic development funds. That's another way to get it done. So since a lot of our events have shown that we've actually helped startups begin and that type of thing, we actually have that sort of a push there that it shows economic development, plus we do minority inclusion and type of things like that, and more inclusive type. So it does play well into those narratives.
Perfect. There's another question from Matt, and you might be able to answer this, Jessica. Is there anyone that we can't accept money from?
I don't think so. We can't take Bitcoins yet, but we've just started talking about figuring out if we can do that. Was there something specific you had in mind? Do you mean like morally or physically? Morally, ethically? I mean, we have lots of conversations around different sort of funding groups, like we would decline from certain companies. We have not yet been in the scenario where we have had to do that. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, and this would also go back to your brigade, is what is sort of the core values of your brigades, and you want to be looking for funders that align with your core values. And I think, but if you think about who your friends are, there should be, you would probably have friends that may have slightly different value set, but like there's a sort of, we have not run into a situation yet where we've said, we're really we're too far away from this funder who wants to give us money. yeah, you know, we don't have any money either from George Soros or from the Koch brothers. And I think there would probably be a discussion around both, but my guess is we would probably lean towards making sure that whatever we are taking funding for, it feels values aligned, and that's the most important thing.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions? We have a few minutes left. Union asked about political money. And I guess in what sense, like from a politician or a political organization or advocacy group?
From like a political leader. It's something that I declined, and maybe it's, I mean, I think we have the privilege to say like what we don't want, but I thought ethically that I couldn't support it, just because I don't want to owe people political favors, but I'm just curious to see if people feel differently about political money, I guess.
So I'm curious to hear what you all, because you probably all have much more closer ties with your local, with local elected officials than we do. We have government funding, but it is not, it's mostly from different agencies because it's at a different scale. But I'd love to hear from you all what your sort of experience is with your elected officials. In my old job, I used to raise money from the government, and I loved the idea of like getting money from your council member and seeing those sorts of mechanisms, but what do you all experience?
Well, I think,
Go ahead.
Derek. Oh, I'm thinking with the 501c3, you kind of have to stay away from really either side leaning type of organizations because of the fact that it could appear that, you know, you're becoming partisan. But that's the one thing we try to stay away from. We try to make sure that when we if we do something around elections, we do it a get out the vote. We don't do a, you know, are we favoring this or that type of thing. So.
Mm-hmm. You can't do political activities with money.
Right.
Yeah, the politicians are hyper aware of the laws and all that, so they're not going to have any problem, you know, doing the right thing in my opinion and my experience. And a lot of times they'll donate money if you're doing a project like we've done. I was on a town council and we did a bunch of stuff for the fire department, the police department, and the council members always donated $5,000, you know, every time we asked. So it's one time we bought a bunch of bicycle lights and for bikes, and we wanted to put GPS on them, but they didn't bite on that. But the idea is that if it's if you're doing a project that has something to do with another city department, they'll fund that in a heartbeat, because that's kind of what their, you know, slush fund is for, to help those relationships with their departments. So I really think that it's they're going to be very sensitive about even coming to an event where you charge everybody else $50. They got to declare that, so that a lot of times they won't come to events like that because they don't want to add that to their list of donations. So they, you know, so it's always something to ask their staffer is, if we get money from you or if we do something with you, you know, do we have to report this? And they'll educate you too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just to echo a little bit of what's been said, Code for America is a nonprofit and nonpartisan organization, just kind of as a reminder. But in terms of accepting donations, I think that it's very much up to you as a brigade in terms of how you want to accept, or in some cases not accept, donations. Awesome. Got 3 more minutes. Any other questions, thoughts, words of wisdom?
I have a quick question. Is the Zoom account something that we can use as brigades, or do we have any kind of conferencing tool that the brigades could use as an in-kind donation? By chance?
My initial answer is that I believe we're going to be rolling out G Suite soon, which has the G Chat functionality, but I can let Tom speak a little bit further.
Yeah, I think Veronica mentioned G Suite. So yeah, Hangouts would be a good video conferencing tool for you guys. I'm not. I can look into Zoom to see if that's something that we're able to offer. Yeah, and then if you have more in-kind requests, you can just in general send them my way or to inkinds@codeforamerica.org, and we'll see if we can work something out with the vendor or like add it to a spreadsheet of ideas.
Awesome, thanks.
And I think someone just pointed out Slack does have there is this video capacity in Slack too. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes, make it rain, Matt.
I'll leave one more minute if anyone wants to unmute and say anything.
Thank you, everyone. This has been really enlightening, and I'm excited to continue our conversation.
Awesome, yay. Perfect, great. Well, I will start to wrap it up then. Thank you, Yan. And thank you to everybody that joined us. This has, I think, been a very enlightening session and extremely useful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you to our presenters for taking time out of your busy schedules to prepare for this and to share your experiences. Everyone, if you have something that you think your brigade is strong at and you want to see a workshop about it, please just get in contact with us. We're definitely ramping up the workshops, and we love information sharing, and are just really excited to have these different opportunities to knowledge share. So with that, I will end right on time, and just feel free to get in touch if anyone has any questions. We'll be posting this recording tomorrow.
Thanks, Veronica.
Yay, thank you, everyone. Thanks. Okay, bye.
This was so fun.
Thank you. Bye.